we have lost some very, very important objects.
Much of Baghdad suffered looting. But was the tragedy at the museum avoidable?
One of our guys asked some of the tanks that were very close here to stop the people, but they did not.
It's the history of the cradle of civilization. The loss is catastrophic.
They will walk into a museum and no longer see these magnificent objects and be able to say, that's us.
Now the Pentagon is under fire for protecting Iraqi oil fields, but not its cultural treasures.
I thought that we had made the case enough with the military that the museum was going to be the #1 protected site in Iraq. Regardless of whether it was Iraqis doing the looting, we will be remembered as the people who caused it. And that is something I don't think America really wants to be remembered for.
Tonight, stolen heritage facing the high cost of war.
From ABC News. This is Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Chris Bury.
For the American military, protecting Iraq's natural wealth ranked high on its list of priorities in the war. In the first few days, U.S. Special Forces seized the oil fields. When Baghdad fell, U.S. troops secured the oil ministry. But some of Iraq's other treasures, and they are among the world's richest, were not so well protected. Museums and libraries containing vast stores of priceless artifacts were badly looted. Today, a third member of the President's Advisory Board on Cultural Property resigned in protest. Along with many other experts, they contend the military could have and should have done more to protect a cultural heritage dating back to the dawn of civilization. Imagine, they suggest, looters being allowed to ransack the Smithsonian, the British Museum, and the Louvre. Pentagon officials, for their part, are adamant that no other military campaign in history has ever been so careful to protect an enemy's treasure. But today, perhaps in a sign the criticism has stung, the FBI announced agents in Iraq would try and chase down the plundered artifacts. What this all boils down to, of course, is an argument about priorities in wartime. Nightline correspondent Michelle Martin begins our coverage tonight.
It was the most important museum, housing the most important artifacts from one of the richest archaeological regions in the world.
It begins here. This is where cities began. This is where the first writing is. This is where you have the first states.
You could trace the development of agriculture, the development of writing, the development of social traditions, development of art. And you could see the first wheel, you could see the first sign for writing. They were all in here.
And now they are gone, or at least an untold number of them. From prehistoric tools to 4,000-year-old pottery to 13th century Islamic art. Stolen by gangs of thieves or damaged by looters. Scholars around the world had warned the Pentagon of the museum's significance. Now they are angry and heartbroken.
I thought that we had made the case enough with the military that the museum was going to be the #1 protected site in Iraq. And I had been part of a group that had worked up a series locations for over 5,000 sites.
Gibson said the losses go beyond the Iraq National Museum's own holdings to include artifacts brought in from other parts of the country. Ironically enough, Iraqi curators believe the artifacts would be safest in Baghdad.
The fact that it was looted, and it was looted even though there were soldiers at one point who had come and driven away the looters and had then gone away. And there were soldiers only about 100 yards away while the looting was taking place for the better part of 2 days. Was shocking and was just indescribable and maddening.
How I was devastated. It was like being hit in the stomach with one of those iron bars. I tell you, I could not believe that in this day and age such a thing would happen.
The reverberations are worldwide. Dr. Irving Finkel is a curator with the British Museum.
It's an unnecessary form of destruction. It's not a bomb going astray or something like that. It's something which was predicted and something which could readily have been avoided.
Gus Van Beek, a Near Eastern scholar with the Smithsonian Institution of Washington, said he nearly cried.
Oh my goodness, we have nothing compared to what they have. They have huge texts, the huge pictures in stone of battles that were fought. They have gold artifacts, silver artifacts, beautiful daggers and other aspects of warfare, and jewelry. Jewelry abounded.
Resentment grew at the defense secretary's suggestion that the reports of looting around the city were exaggerated.
The images you are seeing on television, you are seeing over and over and over, and it's the same picture of some person walking out of some building with a vase. And you see it 20 times. And you think, my goodness, were there that many vases? Is it possible that there were that many vases in the whole country?
A few days later, though, while not admitting any mistakes, he said the U.S. government would do what it could to repair the damage.
The United States is concerned about the museum in Baghdad, and the President and Secretary of the State and I have all talked about it, and we are in the process of offering rewards for people who will bring things back or to assist us in finding where those things might be.
John McWethy covers the Pentagon for ABC News.
They probably wish they had paid more attention to things like protecting the museum. But U.S. officials say the war plan was geared primarily towards speed. Get this war over with as rapidly as possible, and then so many different parts of what they call collateral damage would be reduced.
But that is cold comfort to scholars, including many Americans, who remain outraged that their own government did not do more to protect the antiquities. That sentiment was behind the resignations of 3 of 9 members of a presidential advisory board on cultural properties, a largely symbolic act since their terms were ending anyway, but one they chose to protest what one called a preventable tragedy. And while acknowledging the looting is indefensible and may have been led by professional thieves, scholars around the world say the U.S. bears responsibility for failing to stop it.
But not stopping the people from looting the heritage of mankind, this is something else. If you are not stopping, in a way or another, you are encouraging. They should have stopped. And I'm sorry to say that, but they had the capability to do that. And they were here, but they did not.
Today, FBI Director Robert Mueller announced that FBI agents in Baghdad would assist in the effort to recover stolen valuables.
I excavated it in whatever it was, 1958 or 60 or whatever it was.
And in Paris, scholars met under the auspices of the United Nations to try to begin cataloging the losses and thwart efforts to sell the stolen goods. Sources have told ABC News that because the Hussein regime was involved in selling antiquities on the black market before the war, even museum staffers may not have complete knowledge of the national collection. And now that some measure of stability is returning to Baghdad, the military is now protecting the museum, officials in Baghdad have said that some very valuable holdings were successfully hidden from looters and remain untouched. But to those who have dedicated their lives to studying the birthplace of Western civilization, the loss of even the smallest clay tablets that describe the details of everyday life, is something to mourn.
They can't be replaced, and as with, I think, all sciences, we go through and we think we have learned all that there is to know about something. But by George, all of a sudden, a new aspect of technology comes up and we learn more about it. And that leads us to still other issues moving out and farther all the time. So that there is no point in time when an object is no longer valuable.
Perhaps it seems small-minded to complain about the loss of artifacts in a war in which lives are being lost. That said, what has been destroyed is not just Iraq's history, but the rich heritage of the entire world. This is Michelle Martin for Nightline in Washington.
When we come back, should the military have done more to protect Iraq's historic antiquities?
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Sprint PCS Vision.
Email back ASAP. Brief summary attached.
Every time my people travel.
Backed up emails.
I had my laptop, just no phone jack.
E-ticket confirmation number 0.
Out sick.
Here.
The PCS connection card from Sprint makes laptop connections wireless, so anyone in your company can exchange emails or access your internet when they're out.
Birthday cake in the third floor conference room for whoever.
That'll work better.
And so can they.
Get PCS connection cards from Sprint for your business and make laptop connections wireless.
So, you want to open a checking account?
Yes, but I don't want to pay for it.
Right. And you want online banking?
Right, if it's free.
And unlimited online bill paying?
I don't want to have to pay for that either.
No. So you want total security protection on your check card, free?
Look, I just don't think I should have to pay for any of it.
Neither do we.
Free checking plus with direct deposit from Bank of America. Higher standards.
Friday, Oprah and Fergie did it, but can you win the fight against fat? Or are you doomed by your genes? Friday is Your Fat, Your Fault on 2020 Friday.
If you like the quality, safety, and reliability of a new Toyota, and who doesn't? Well, now you can get all that and more at pre-owned prices. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Walters here at Rivergate Toyota in Nashville, where every one of our certified pre-owned Toyotas goes through a rigorous 128-point safety and reliability check. Plus, you get a 100,000-mile warranty. So why pay new car prices when you can get more for less? And hey, isn't that the idea? We're Rivergate Toyota. We'll see you here.
Problems are easier when you talk about them, even if it's burning feminine itch. Maximum Strength Vagisil has the strongest itch medicine of its kind, plus skin-soothing vitamins. For instant relief, trust Vagisil, a better understanding of better intimate care.
Now at Doctor's Value Vision, get 2 complete pairs of glasses for only $89. Choose from over 1,000 great-looking frames and get 2 complete pairs for just $89. And your second pair can be for you, a family member, or a friend. Why pay more? Save at Doctor's Value Vision.
Joining us tonight, Peter Galbraith, the former U.S. ambassador to Croatia. He has also traveled extensively throughout Iraq when he worked for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Now an ABC News consultant, Ambassador Galbraith joins us from Baghdad, where he recently toured Iraq's National Museum. Also with us is Martin Sullivan, a former director of several prominent U.S. museums. Until his resignation this week, he served as head of President Bush's Advisory Committee on Cultural Property. Mr. Sullivan, presumably you knew that your resignation would embarrass the White House. Was that your intention?
Not at all. I think my concern was twofold. One, there was so much information available to the administration and specifically to the Pentagon from all of the antiquities experts in this country about the need to protect that museum and the archaeological sites, and somehow it didn't happen. Number two, our country chose the terms and the timing to start this war, and it seems to me that's an extra burden in terms of trying to prepare for the things that can and will go wrong, and did go wrong in the last Gulf War.
Well, let me read from your resignation letter just for a moment. While our military forces have displayed extraordinary precision and restraint in deploying arms and apparently in securing the oil ministry and oil fields, they have been nothing short of impotent in failing to attend to the protection of Iraq's cultural heritage. Those are pretty strong words. I mean, the military here was fighting a war. To call it impotent, is that not a stretch?
Well, first let me make it clear, I have no quarrel with those brave troops who've sacrificed and fought and who believe in the cause of freedom, as we all do. I think the troops on the ground are doing incredibly well. But somewhere in the chain of communication, from the pre-war planning to the way in which troops were deployed and the decisions about what priorities to take, something went badly wrong. So it's not about the troops, it's about the overall planning.
Ambassador Galbraith, you are in Baghdad tonight, and the fact that you are wearing a flak jacket testifies to the dangerousness of the situation. Still, the Pentagon is pretty defensive about this, suggesting that they were, in fact, fighting a war. They had priorities to protect their troops, protect innocent lives, and that this was a matter of priorities and perhaps didn't fit in as high as other priorities.
Well, I was at the museum today, and the fact is that had the museum been a priority, it could easily have been protected. They protected the oil ministry. In fact, it's the one government ministry that hasn't burned down. So this was a matter of choice, but it didn't have to be the top priority. I mean, there were a few locations they could have protected. I think it just slipped between the cracks, and it's a great tragedy.
Mr. Sullivan, some reports suggest that this looting was professional, or at least some of it was professional, that forklifts were used, that someone apparently had keys to vaults. Does that not implicate members of the Iraqi regime?
Well, it sure looks like it, and Ambassador Galbraith would be in a much better position to judge, how likely that is. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think any American would be surprised. That doesn't diminish the fact that there certainly appeared to be street-level sacking and looting and destruction that a small contingent could have put to an end.
Ambassador, the fact that such things as documents were destroyed, that entire card catalogs were burned, does that suggest to you that perhaps it was a professional job?
There could have been professional thieves among the looters, but clearly there was also just an orgy of violence. I was wandering through the museum today. It was really heartbreaking. There were shards of pottery, statues knocked down, and then there was another loss, which is huge, but which hasn't been talked about much, and that is the historical record of the research of the last 80 years. As the director, Donnie George, explained to me, many of these objects by themselves they're just tablets of clay, and that their value comes from knowing where you found them, from putting them in a context. And that context, the photographs, the field notes, that's all been lost.
All right, gentlemen, we need to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the black market, where some of this material may have ended up. We'll talk about that in just a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the technology offensive has begun. Observe. Laser-guided adaptive cruise control, a rear-view camera, suspension that lowers at speed, headlights that turn to illuminate your path on curves.
Enough. So, what do we do now?
Introducing the entirely new Lexus RX 330. Putting the world on notice again.
What do we do now?
Dinner, $30 on debit card. Two movie tickets, $20 on debit card. Ice cream, $10 on debit card. Leaving your cash at home, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's debit MasterCard, except that almost everywhere cash is.
It's a beautiful morning.
I don't want to go jogging. I don't want to play hockey. All I want are nights with less pain, mornings with less stiffness, so Bo and I can go out early and catch up with all our friends.
Ask your doctor about once daily treatments for 24-hour relief of arthritis, pain, and stiffness. Call 1-888-MERC55 for more information.
In my dream, I'm running.
From who?
I'm not sure. They're wearing masks. They're tough customers.
Customers? What do they want?
Everything. Now.
On demand.
They're very demanding.
And you can't get away?
No. What does it mean?
That you're too slow, you can't respond, and you're in denial.
No, I'm not.
See?
Tonight, my co-host Deion Sanders and I welcome Lost at Home's Connie Britton and music from Disturbed.
You're spoiling us, Jimmy.
I know I am, Deion.
Jimmy Kimmel Live, coming up.
Hi, I'm Howard Knowles, and this is Faith Break. Anybody can count the seeds in one apple, but only God can count the apples in one seed. Have you thought about that? We judge life by appearance. God judges life by potential. We view life from the evidence. God views life from the eternal. While we look for the worms, God works the wonderful miracles of nature. Anybody can count the seeds in one apple, but only God can count the apples in one seed.
We're back now with Ambassador Peter Galbraith and Martin Sullivan. Ambassador Galbraith, you have been in the museum today. Give us a sense of the scope of the destruction and a sense of what has been lost.
There were some 170,000 objects in that museum. It was basically all the important archaeological finds of the last 80 years in Iraq, because after around 1920, 1930, things that were dug up in this territory were not sent to European museums. And this is the cradle of civilization. It's where writing began. It's where law began. It's where the depiction of the human being as in art began. So it's an extraordinary wealth of objects, and frankly, most of it is gone. And there may be objects that will turn up, but a lot of it has been smashed. It's been taken. This is, in my view, probably the greatest cultural catastrophe in the last 100 years. Maybe more things were lost in World War II in total, but for a single event, I can't think of any event in the last 100 years that compares to the sacking of this museum.
Help put some perspective on that, Mr. Sullivan, for Americans who may be unfamiliar with this museum. What might you compare this to?
Well, let's say I happen to be in Washington today, and let's say that we superimposed Washington on Baghdad. We know about Saddam's palaces. Well, they're the equivalent of those big mansions out in Potomac, Maryland, McLean, Virginia, so forth. What we're talking about with the National Museum and the National Library is everything that Americans come to Washington to venerate. The Smithsonian, the National Archives, the Library of Congress. I mean, this is our identity as a people. And as Ambassador Galbraith said, what's in Baghdad is not just an Iraqi national identity, it is the identity of our civilization.
Assuming these objects were so priceless, Mr. Sullivan, I assume that no reputable art dealer or antiquity dealer would touch them with a 10-foot pole.
Well, I know plenty of reputable antiquities dealers, art collectors, and you're absolutely right. There is always those few people who have to have something that nobody else has. And as I'm sure viewers understand, the looting of antiquities around the world is an enormous problem. The advisory committee that I've worked with has helped the State Department and the Customs Service identify ways to at least deter some of that looting in places like Cambodia, Cyprus, Guatemala, Peru, Mali in Africa. And it's a worldwide epidemic, and somewhere there's a market for it.
Ambassador Galbraith, anything you want to add? I mean, who is going to buy this stuff?
Well, I think a lot of this was just taken, smashed. I'm afraid that Babylonian figures were stolen for the value of the gold, I mean, which would be just a tiny fraction of the value of some of these very beautiful objects. To some degree, I think, and I know this goes against the conventional wisdom, that maybe the best thing would be if there were something of a market for these objects so that they would come out of wherever they are and then the possibility of them being recovered. The real danger is that they'll never be recovered at all.
There's been another proposal put forward, Mr. Sullivan, by the director of the Metropolitan Art Museum in New York City. He's calling for a total amnesty for anyone who is involved in this, as well as financial incentives for returning any of these materials.
Well, I don't know that I would fully agree. I want to think about that. Number one, the great tragedy in this war is the human suffering, and we all know that. But number two, looting is theft. Theft is a crime, and amnesty might be a way to recover some objects, but what kind of message is that sending to looters elsewhere?
Ambassador Galbraith, a few seconds left. Last word goes to you.
No, I think an amnesty, anything to get these objects back. This is the cultural heritage of Iraq. It's the cultural heritage of all of us, of the cradle of civilization. These are extraordinary times, and any measure, financial rewards, art markets, whatever it is. And incidentally, talking to the Iraqis, they remember President Bush talking about their rich heritage, how much he admired it. And so they were really left wondering to me, how could he have talked that way and yet allowed this to happen? This is an event, I think, that is going to shape the psyche of Iraqis for a long time to come.
Ambassador Peter Galbraith and Mr. Marty Sullivan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And when we come back, a final word about one U.S. Marine killed in action.
To receive a daily email announcement about each evening's Nightline and a preview of special broadcasts, log on to the Nightline page at abcnews.com.
The Chevy Trailblazer worst-case scenario. What to do if tailgated by a giant ore hauler? Don't slow down or pull one of those I'm braking slightly to freak you out stunts. You won't like the results. Simply let that standard 275 horsepower Vortec engine send a clear message. Get off my rear, poor man. Here you have a best case scenario. Chevy Trailblazer. Like a rock.
Are you paying too much for shipping? Priority Mail Service is dependable delivery starting at just $3.85. Maybe that's why we deliver more business packages than any two-day service. Priority Mail from the United States Postal Service.
Oscar winner Julie Andrews took on 2 kids in Mary Poppins. She tackled 7 kids in The Sound of Music. But now she's met her biggest challenge.
I'm Eloise. I'm 6.
She's the nanny to the most mischievous kid ever. But if anyone can turn things around...
What are you up to? Nothing.
It's her.
I love you. I love you too.
A world premiere movie based on the beloved books. Eloise at the Plaza, Sunday, April 27th on ABC.
Can you give me that seafood any other way?
I can give it to you this way. Or this way. Or this way.
Just because it's seafood doesn't mean it's seafood country. Unlike other places, at Long John Silver's, you get fish and shrimp 3 different ways. Like our delicious batter dip fish and shrimp treasure meals starting from $3.99. Treasure combo, variety platter, or new treasure family meal. It's seafood the way it ought to be. Long John Silver's, this is seafood country.
At a time when car insurance rates are going up, Direct is one company holding our rates down. There's only one sure way for you to know if you're paying too much for car insurance. You have to shop around. We now have over 700 employees to give you the very best in customer service. So call us at Direct and take advantage of our new lower rates. We offer great service at a great price, low down payments, and low payments. Why pay more? Call Direct now.
Save a lot of money when you buy Direct.
Now that the war is winding down, American troops are starting to come home. Tonight we wanted to remember one U.S. Marine. Sergeant Edward Smith was first introduced to us by correspondent Mike Saray, who traveled with Marine Company Fox 25 from Camp Pendleton all the way through the war.
Fox 2, this is Fox 8, over.
The only one with prior combat experience is their first sergeant, who served in the Gulf War 11 years ago this week. He was planning to retire this month until the Marines canceled all discharges and transfers.
My wife is not happy about it because we were planning to move on from the Marine Corps. Just me retiring and settle down and stop deploying.
But retirement, which really meant a new full-time job as a police officer in Anaheim, had to wait. As Sergeant Smith trained his young Marines in the Kuwaiti desert.
If we have to stand up and stand down 100 times, we need to stand up as best we can every 100 times, because one of those times we may get the order to execute.
Soon, Company Fox 25 was racing to Baghdad. They tasted combat and they took casualties. 2 weeks ago, Sergeant Smith got caught in a firefight. The next day, he died. Today, the Anaheim Police Department, where Sergeant Smith was to start his new career, instead gave him a 21-gun salute. And his fellow Marines at Camp Pendleton welcomed him home for the last time. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Chris Bury in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
In times like these, thank goodness there's still a Nightline. Koppel brings a cool intelligence and perspective. American television's MVP. Cheers to Ted Koppel. No wonder more and more Americans are turning to Nightline.
Tomorrow, find out how SARS will change the way people worship in some churches this Easter. The rituals that will be altered on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Easter Sunday at 7/6 Central.
Let my people go.
ABC presents the Oscar-winning 10 Commandments. Easter Sunday at 7/6 Central.
News 2 at WKRN.com.
It's Jimmy Kimmel
Live from Hollywood, it's Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jimmy's guest tonight from the best damn sports show period, football legend Michael Irvin from Lost at Home.